Hello and welcome back to the Flagrant Foul Fridays podcast. I'm your host, Christian, and along with me today is my co-host, as always, Nick.
Welcome back, everybody.
So we got a decent amount to cover today because there was the Super Bowl as well as the start of the Olympics. And I don't know about you, Nick, but I've been really enjoying the Olympics so far.
From what I've seen so far, I'm a little behind, but I've watched most of the final events.
Even if America doesn't win, it's still really fun to watch.
Yeah, a lot of records have been broken so far from what we've seen, and um, a lot of new people to the scene have also been winning gold and other types.
Yeah, it's really been a big year for records overall. Really, I feel like news stories in general, whether that's injuries or other things. But we will cover that a little bit later. So, to follow up off of last week, we did a Super Bowl prediction game where each of us made predictions under the same criteria, and then we got a final score based on who got each of the things right. And some of them were worth 1 point, some of them were worth three, and some were worth 5 points. So I went through and tallied up all of the points, and we have our final scores. But before I tell the final scores, I want to talk about some of the key things that each of us got right that kind of determined who won. Um, so first thing would be that I predicted that Sam Darnold would not throw an interception, and Nick predicted that he would. So I ended up being right. The next would be Nick correctly predicted that Kenneth Walker and Trevion Henderson would have a tie in touchdowns, that being 0. Although, if there wasn't a penalty, I would have been right and Kenneth Walker would have scored a touchdown. Next we got I correctly predicting that Jason and Stefan Diggs would have a tie for touchdowns, that also being 0. Nick correctly predicted for 3 points that AJ Barner would have a touchdown. And I had a feeling it would be a tight end, but I just kind of went with Cooper Kupp. And next we got completion percentage. Whoever was closest got the points. So Sam Darnold had a 50% completion percentage exactly, meaning that my prediction of 68.1 was closer than Nick's prediction of 68.5.
I think my original prediction was like 65% or something, and then I was like,
Yeah.
well, I think he's going to do a little better.
So both of us were like 18% off, but I took the points there. And then moving on to Drake May completion percentage, I almost got it exactly right. He had 62.79% and I predicted 61.8. Nick predicted 58.3%. So I also got the points for that. Next, we got longest field goal made. This one was really unfortunate for me because I jokingly said I was going to take 38 yards, but I wasn't going to be that guy. Unfortunately, as a result, Nick wins by 1 yard closer. It was 41 yards was the longest. Nick predicted 37, and I predicted 46. And then lastly, we got the 5 point questions. Neither of us predicted the MVP correctly. However, my score prediction was closer than Nick's. I don't think we explained this very well last week, but the way we uh, figure out whose score prediction was closer is we take each of the scores for both teams, so in this case 29 and 13, and then subtract it versus our score for each team. So when you subtract my prediction of 30 and 16 versus Nick's prediction of 27 and 17 to the actual score of 29 and 13, I had a difference of 4 points, while Nick had a difference of 6 points. I was really shocked at how close we were to the actual scores, although I don't think either of us predicted it was going to happen the way it did. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So I ended up taking that. So the final scores. Nick had 16 out of 40 points, and I had 23 out of 40 points, meaning that I won by 7 points. I thought it'd be a lot closer, but I also thought each of us would get more in general. This was a very different Super Bowl than I think many people thought. I mean, JSN and Stefan Diggs had less than 40 yards each, so
Well, JSN was also out for
He was,
a
yes, he
little
was.
while.
Uh, but yeah, that was a fun game. Uh, glad I won. Yeah. Also, I want it to be known that incorrectly guessed the coin toss, even though we predicted tails. Tails did in fact fails.
Tails fails.
I said it never fails last episode, but it did. That's okay though. All right, now we're going to move on to our actual special segment of this episode, which is Winter Olympic hot takes. So the way this works is each of us came up with three Winter Olympic themed hot takes. If you don't know what a hot take is, it's basically a claim that each of us have about something with regards to the Winter Olympics. So the only rules for this was that we have to actually believe our hot takes and that it has to be Winter Olympic themed. Aside from that, anything goes. And there's no winner in this game, but what we're going to do is have each of the other person rank from 1 to 3 how hot of a take we think their hot takes are. So 1 is the hottest take, and 3 is the least hot take. In other words, 1 is something that's really absurd, and 3 is something that is less absurd and or we agree with to some extent. So, do you want to go first?
If you want me to.
Sure, give me one of your hot takes.
So, my first hot take is curling is an elite event with a ton of skill and is one of the best Olympic sports. Winter Olympic sports, I should say.
Uh, yeah, I don't think that's too hot of a take. Um, I think curling definitely is very underrated. I think it can look very easy on paper, but it's a game of literally like inches. A little bit too much rotation, a little bit too much speed. Not to mention you have to kind of choose if you're even going to go for a shot to begin with. And then sometimes you have to accept that your opponents are going to score and then just block them. Sometimes you have to try to go for a lot of points, otherwise your opponents would win. Like there's a lot of strategy. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah, you also have to take into account your angles when you hit the other. I think they're called rocks.
Yeah. I think that's a fairly mild hot take. I think a lot of people actually are starting to appreciate curling more, although I'm sure after the Olympics they're not going to watch it. But I would agree, yeah, it definitely takes skill and it's definitely one of the best. All right. My first hot take is there should be a new event that's similar to speed skating, but with slower and specialized blades that use non-oval tracks. So basically like an F1 race. So in other words, like there's curves that go left and right and stuff, but with ice skates. Um, I think each Olympics could build a new track for the racers that they would have to learn, and it could be a short race, like 2 to 4 laps, or it could be an extreme endurance version. So you could have like multiple teammates and you have to like make pit stops and then switch your teammate.
I don't think that's too bad of a take. It'd be interesting to see a different style of speed skating.
I think the worst part about it would be the logistics of building the tracks and how much money that would cost and stuff. And then getting people to actually uh train for it because I don't think it's actually a thing.
Yeah, plus that would take probably quite a bit of time to kind of form the track with it being ice instead of tar.
Yeah, it also might have to be outdoors
Hmm.
depending how big it is. But I would love to watch that. I think that'd be really cool.
So my next hot take is I believe the Olympics should be played every year. It would increase the athletes' exposure to, uh, I guess, kind of grow their following. And because I feel like more people watch the Olympics than the actual events. So it would kind of grow in popularity for those events if it happened every year. But I did do some research, and the reason they do it every 4 years is to honor the ancient Greeks who used the 4 year period to measure time.
Yeah. I would consider that a pretty hot take, actually. Well, I do and I don't. Your points are good. I do think it would increase the exposure. Although also, I think uh like we could do a better job at advertising the like off I don't know, it's not off season, but you know what I mean? Like the non-Olympic years, we could do a better job at advertising those events, you know? Um, However, I think you run into a lot of issues with like the past. Like, is it fair that someone that just retired only went to like 3 Olympics and the next generation gets to go to like 10 or 12? And it's gonna affect records like Michael Phelps' record for a lot of gold medals could probably get broken just by the sheer number, you know? So for that reason, I feel like I personally would rather it's still every 4 years. Um, because I just feel like it's not that fair. So I'm gonna say that that is currently your hottest take. My next hot take is that the Winter Olympics should introduce snowball fighting. I looked it up, and Japan already has a formal competitive snowball league called Gassen. It has rules, referees, and international tournaments. And so I think it's like teams of about 7, and there's a flag, so you can like eliminate people or you can steal their flag. Obviously, it wouldn't have to be like that, but I think the fact that it already exists to some extent would make it really easy to incorporate. You could make it a group event, you could make it a single event, you could make it a free-for-all, battle royale. Like, there's a ton of options, and I think it would be really fun.
I'm gonna put that below F1, but I do feel like that's kind of a hot take because snowball fighting is, I don't know, it's almost like dodgeball, but with snow.
Right. And dodgeball isn't in the Summer Olympics, mind you, although there is competitive dodgeball.
I think I'd take dodgeball over snowball fighting.
I would agree. I was just thinking that there's so many events in the Winter Olympics that involve sleds, skis, or snowboards.
You kind of have something different.
I wanted to pick something similar to curling that it was a bit different, you know? And I couldn't think of anything really.
I don't think you're ready for my next hot take.
Okay.
So, for my final hot take, I believe that figure skating is overrated.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of, I honestly think it's kind of boring. I get it takes a lot of skill, but there's just a lot of people that hype up figure skating, and that's just not me.
I mean, I understand why some people don't like it. Uh, but yeah, that's definitely your hottest take. It's the most watched Olympic sport, I'm pretty sure. Oh, that hurts to hear, Nick. The problem is you just need to watch it with me so I can explain it. Then you start to appreciate it more, I think. All right. I don't think you're ready for my final hot take. My final hot take is that figure skating is one of the most underrated sports. And it should get a lot more broadcasting and news focus outside of the Olympics. So, for example, ESPN and other channels should add it to their regular lineup alongside the NFL and NBA.
Well, that's going for the hottest take just because it kind of has to be since my hot take was figure
Yeah,
skating is overrated.
yeah. Uh, See, for me, I like figure skating because one, I really like music. So, in that sense, it's already memorable for me because, like, for example, I was walking to lunch today and I was thinking about some of the skaters and just the music really stood out to me and like I was humming some of the songs and stuff like that. That sort of stuff is really cool and I really like the mix of how it's a mix of like skill and also like artistic stuff. Um Now mind you, I don't watch a lot of like dance or gymnastics competitions, but I do have a very like musical artistic side of me, so I think that's why I'm naturally kind of drawn to it. I don't know, I just find it to be fun. Uh, yeah, I like that it kind of tells a story. I mean, it's definitely not as high octane, as something like football or whatever. But it has its like thrilling moments when the scores are close and then someone falls and stuff. For me, it's just something beautiful to watch, and I think not a lot of sports really hit that.
I think football is beautiful when there's big hits.
I mean, yeah, to some extent. I just think it's very different from any other sport, and I think it's a nice breath of fresh air. All right, now we're going to move on to the Olympics section. So we're going to start with some major news during the last week. So some of this actually comes from before the start of the Olympics, and some of it was just throughout. I'm not sure if it's in order by when it happened, but I think most of it is. So first of all, during the opening ceremony, some history was made. It was the first ever all-female honor guard at an Olympic opening ceremony, which means that the people that raised the flag were all women, military members. So that's a pretty big achievement. Next up, there was some disease news, actually. A norovirus outbreak among the Finnish women's ice hockey team forced them to postpone their opening match against Canada from February 5th to February 12th, because 13 of 23 players were initially infected and quarantined. So they were left with only 8 skaters and 2 goalies available for practice. So, like I said, the game got rescheduled. However, I looked it up, and quarantine for this type of virus is only typically a day or two. So they did get to play the US on Saturday. They ended up losing that game.
So Christian had sent this to me and kind of made mention of it. So Ilya Malinin,
Malinin.
Malinin, the men's Olympic figure skating. Uh, he's a favorite in the men's figure skating. Is wearing yellow skate laces gifted to him by Alex Ovechkin in Milan. Um, and I guess that's kind of cool because if you watch hockey, you know Alex Ovechkin. He's currently one of the greatest playing right now, if not one of the top five greatest of all time. So it's kind of cool that he gave him shoelaces.
Well, one thing I'd like to add is Ilya's parents are actually from, I can't remember which country, but it was formerly part of the Soviet Union. So he and his parents speak Russian. And so I think part of this was the fact that Alex didn't even have an opportunity to play for the Russian hockey team because they were banned. So I think this was kind of his way of somehow still being involved with the Olympics. But yeah, so it's not completely out of nowhere, like they both speak Russian and stuff. But yeah, that's definitely pretty cool to see. Speaking of hockey, USA women's team, right?
Yep, the women's team.
They shut out Canada 5-0 in hockey for the first time in Olympic history, and they finished first in the group stages. So that gives the United States the best possible positioning heading into the quarterfinals and beyond. So they have pretty favorable matchups moving forward, and they're currently outscoring their opponents 20-1. The only team that scored on them was the Czech Republic, also known as Czechia.
So a little bit about the women's hockey. Hillary Knight tied the U.S. Olympic record for most goals in an Olympic career, 14 goals in women's hockey. She's currently tied with Natalie Derwitz and Katie King. So that's a pretty impressive feat for Hillary Knight. I don't know.
And that was a couple of days ago, so I don't know. I didn't hear if she broke it, but there's definitely still a possibility that she could. But yeah, that's definitely pretty cool. To continue on the topic of hockey and kind of to go back to diseases, it was announced later on in the week that Switzerland's entire women's hockey team would be placed in isolation as a precaution after one of the players tested positive for norovirus. Um, they were skills. They're still scheduled to face Canada on Saturday, and reminder, Team Canada has not played their first game yet because their opener versus Finland was also postponed. So You kind of have to wonder if this might affect Canada in some way. Although I think Canada did end up playing, or they would have had to because the US beat them. Oh, I guess this was last Saturday. Uh, it was really hitting the women's hockey teams, different teams hard. In other news, at 26 years old, Amber Glenn is the oldest woman to make the US team for singles in figure skating in 98 years. I can kind of understand this because being younger is probably a pretty good advantage in this sport, but at the same time, that's kind of a shocking stat to me.
If you think about it, that's only like 3 Olympics total if you're 18 years old.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people have been to the Olympics in their 16s or younger for figure skating, though. Um, but that's actually a good point that you bring up because if, like the next Olympics she would be 30. So, it even though like no one was ever 27 or 28, it does somewhat make sense, I suppose.
Layla Edwards became the first black woman to represent the U.S. in Olympic hockey. This came as a surprise to me because we have really progressed into. I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now. It did come to a surprise to me, though, that she's the first black woman to represent the hockey team.
Yeah, I mean, hockey is, in terms of a lot of sports, I think probably one of the lower um, African American sports. Like NBA is pretty high, even MLB is pretty high nowadays. But then to add on their women too, that might make it maybe even more niche. I don't know. So that does kind of surprise me, but I kind of get it at the same time. Either way, though, it's really cool to see. And Breezy Johnson, which we will talk about later, became the first U.S. Olympian this year to win a medal for the U.S. It just so happened to also be a gold medal. So congratulations to her.
And for those of you who haven't watched much of the Olympics, Lindsey Vonn crashed in her race, her downhill race, within her first 13.4 seconds, and she was lifted out of the event by a helicopter.
It was a really scary moment.
Yeah, she really went flipping, and I was concerned watching it live, but she later came out with updates, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
I will say though, this really went viral. I heard people in my classes talking about it who don't even care about the Olympics. So,
So I wanted to talk a little bit about her injury history since her injury just happened. So in February 2007, she sprained her right ACL. February 2009, she severed her tendon in the right thumb. In December of 2009, she microfractured her left forearm. February 2010, she had a broken right pinky. Wow, that's a real weak injury.
it might affect how she holds her poles.
Yeah, that's true, being a hand and foot sport. February of 2013, she tore her ACL and MCL in her right knee and tibial plateau fracture in her right leg. In November 2013, she had a torn right ACL. In December of 2013, she had an MCL sprain in her right knee. In August of 2015, she had a broken ankle. February 2016, multiple fractures in the left knee. November 2016, fractured her humerus in her right arm. November 2018, torn LCL and meniscus in left knee and 3 tibial plateau fractures. In January 2019, she had an impact injury to her peroneal nerve. And in January 2026, of course, she tore her ACL in her left knee. So a lot of ACL and MCL injuries.
Yeah, it's a pretty dangerous sport because they're going very fast downhill. You get a lot of airtime and you're making very quick turns while your feet are strapped in. There's so many different ways you can tear ligaments and tendons and break your bones and yeah, it's a dangerous sport. But I will say this gives a little context as to why she probably chose to continue to do the Olympics despite her ACL tear because she has dealt with it in the past to some extent. Um, and this might be her last Olympics. So, I will say though, based on what I heard from like people that are professional within the sport and from what she said herself, I don't think the crash had anything to do with her ACL. Um, so I saw a lot of people are saying like, well, she should have never been in it in this and that. But I actually think she easily could have finished, although she might not have finished in medal contention. I don't believe that the ACL injury caused this injury.
Yeah, I saw she said she took her turn like half an inch too sharp. So currently, Lindsey Vonn is in stable condition after her crash, and her father said if he had anything to do with it, Milano Cortina would be her last event. And Vaughn shared on her social media that she had a complete tibial fracture from the crash and would require multiple surgeries. And currently, today, as of Wednesday, she had her third surgery and posted on social media saying that I had my third surgery today and it was successful. Success today has a completely different meaning than it did a few days ago. I'm making progress and while it is slow, I know I'll be okay. So, it kind of sounds like she might even be seeing that it was her last event as well, which is a good thing given her age and the extent of her two injuries together.
Yeah, so I looked into this a little bit, from the medical side of things, since, that's the field I'm going into. And from my understanding, based on the limited information we have, like all we know is that it was a severe fracture. We don't know how many, like if it fractured in multiple places, if there is internal bleeding or what. But from my understanding, this injury can typically cause you to not be able to walk fully for at least like a year. So I think we should expect that she'll be in a wheelchair for a while. There's a lot of possibility of complications. That's probably partially why we saw her get 3 surgeries. Even after the fact, there's a risk of complications, such as I think compartment syndrome is one of them. And so it's going to be probably a long road to recovery. Um, Hopefully it doesn't, you know, get infected or anything more severe happen. This kind of reminds me of the Alex Smith injury a little bit from football. So yeah, it's definitely a really big deal. Hopefully she can recover though. In our last bit of news, the Winter Olympic Organizing Committee is working to figure out an issue with medals. Some athletes stated that their medals had broken off the ribbon. I actually saw some stuff from online about multiple athletes with their medals falling off and stuff. I also saw though that they've been doing a really good job at replacing them. Like they reach out to the athletes and then give it to them in their hotel rooms or whatever. So that's good.
So, we discovered some fun facts over the past week about the Olympics. Starting off with no tropical or South American country has ever won a Winter Olympic medal.
I mean, this makes sense, but you would think with being able to maybe fly elsewhere and train, you would see at least like one, Or maybe someone that grew up in one country but then had dual citizenship and participated for a different country. But yeah, that's a very surprising stat. So something really fascinating that I came across was that there is one person in the entire history of the Olympics who's won both a gold medal and an Oscar. And this person was Kobe Bryant. Did you know this, Nick?
I knew that he won an Oscar and won a gold medal, but I never knew he was the only one. I never really thought to even think about it.
Yeah. So he won the Oscar for, I think, directing and writing some animated film. I don't remember the name of it. And
He
then
made his
he,
own film. It was called like shoot, I remember what I don't remember what it was called, but it was a story about his life.
yeah, I think it was animated though, right?
Yeah, it was animated.
And he won an Oscar for like best animated film or something. And then obviously he won a gold at basketball. Kind of a random stat, but it was fascinating nonetheless, so I thought I'd bring that up.
I remember it was named Dear Basketball. So Judah Leerdam, the gold medalist and new record holder, which we'll talk about later for the 1,000 meter speed skating, is engaged to Jake Paul. I had seen this before, but I completely forgot and didn't even know she was an Olympic athlete.
Yeah, and she doesn't even participate for the US. She's, I think, participates for the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
So that was even more surprising, but I mean, it is and isn't. I mean, people marry people from different countries, so that part of it's not surprising. But still, I just thought that was kind of interesting to see Jake Paul in the stands rooting for a different country, you know? Also, this is a very surprising fact that I stumbled across. Um, I share a birthday with at least two figure skaters. And I figured this out coincidentally when I was going through some different figure skaters to like one make sure they were who I thought they were and then two look up some stats. But anyways, the app I was using, whenever you click on them, shows their birthday like right front and center. So it just so happened that I found two separate people that share a birthday with me. One of them is Ilya Malinin, the US favorite that we were talking about earlier. So that's kind of interesting. He's a year younger than me though. And then Anastasia Gubanova, who is 1 year older than me. She is a Georgian figure skater. Kind of weird, but cool. I wonder if you share a birthday with anyone, Nick.
I actually just looked it up, and it was with a Canadian gold medalist, but I don't think there's any current active ones. But Brent Lang from Canada, he was a curler, and he won gold.
Well, there you go.
But the only one that could potentially be active is a Japanese speed skater, which I don't remember seeing her name, Ayano Sato. It says she was in the Beijing Winter Games though, so she won gold in 2018. So I don't know.
And our last fun fact, Madison Chalk, who is a figure skater for the US. She does pairs with her husband. It's kind of cool. I believe her husband was in the Olympics 5 times and she was in it 4 times, so they weren't like always paired together. But anyways, she designs costumes. That was pretty well known actually. But what I found out today is that she designed costumes for other teams as well as herself. So she designed costumes for 4 national teams in the Olympics. So obviously the US herself and her partner, Spain, Australia, and Georgia. So all of those figure skating pair teams' costumes were designed by her. It's kind of cool that other teams are willing to like reach out to her. I did hear that some of those costumes are really hard to get made because they're not like mass produced and they're like fit specifically for you. I heard they can cost like thousands, maybe even $10,000. So that's kind of cool though that they reached out to her. All right, now we're gonna move on to figure skating news. So on day one of the team events, I think it was mostly the women. The US did pretty good. I think they secured a second place spot and maybe a first place spot in two different events. So at the end of day one, the standings were Italy in third with 22 points, Japan in second with 23 points, and the US in first with 25 points. So the US had a 2 point lead on Japan at the end of day one. Then on day two, the men skated, and as well as a different type of pair event. And Ilya surprisingly got second behind Yuma from Japan in the men's short program. This was very surprising to a lot of people. It was mostly because he kind of stumbled on some of his spins and stuff. A lot of people think it was just, first time Olympic nerves. It's really uh, not his style. I believe he won like 16 events in a row or something like that. So it didn't worry me too much. But it was definitely something to consider going into the final day when he would have to do his free skate program. So after day three, the US jumped up all the way to 44 points, with Japan in second with 39 and Italy in third with 37. So at that point, the US had a 5 point lead and things were looking really good. But going into day three, quite a lot happened actually. So first of all, Canada had one big mistake in their team pair event, which allowed the US to score slightly higher than them. Now the US in this particular event for free skating, their pair team was not like everyone knew they weren't like in the favorites to win or anything. Almost everyone expected them to take fifth, which is last place in the team event. However, because of this one mistake, they won by about 1 point, I believe. Uh, so the US got fourth instead of fifth. As a result, the US got one more point. Now, remember this because this was very important later in the day. Uh, so Matteo Rizzo, I just wanted to point out he had a really good performance. Like probably some were saying a performance of a lifetime to secure Italy the bronze medal. Even some people even said he did more than he needed to do. So that was cool to see. But anyways, to go back to the point issues that I kind of mentioned, Amber Glenn ended up getting third, I think. So she was almost expected to get at least second place, but she really kind of struggled the entire time. You could see it in her face. She had nerves or something, and after the fact, you could tell she was upset. But because of that, we dropped more points than we expected to. Um, and so the US lead went from 5 points to tied going into the final event, the men's free skating event. Now, the reason I brought up that Canadian mistake is because without that mistake, they would have went into this event down 1 point. However, since they went into it tied, that meant that it was literally winner take all. Whoever scored higher between Japan and America would win. And I was watching this live. It was really tense. And as Ilya was skating, he actually fell, which like made my heart sink. However, he recovered really well. He had an insane backflip, and despite Japan having a near perfect performance, Ilya still won, which was insane, even though he fell, losing like a lot of points. I don't think maybe 5 or more points. And so a lot of people that I saw online were kind of confused about this because I don't think they understand how figure skating scoring works. So essentially what happened is Ilya's performance had a higher overall like potential score just based on how hard of tricks he did. Um, he also had arguably a much better presentation score with like face movements, dancing, etc. So even though he fell and lost points, the like level of difficulty and showmanship made up for it. So, um, yeah, it was like literally about as tense as it can be. Like you have a guy falling down, someone that has to win to get gold. Yeah, I mean it was insane. So the final results. The US won with 69 points, Japan got silver with 68 points, and Italy got bronze with 60 points. So the athletes for the US was Madison Chalk, Evan Bates, Ellie Kam, Ilya Malinin, Danny O'Shea, Amber Glenn, and Alyssa Liu. Japan was Utana Yoshida, Ryuichi Kihara, Mas Masaya Morita, Kaori Sakamoto, Riku Maria, Yuma Kageyama, and Ryuichi Kihara. And then Italy was Charlene Gorgnard, Marco Fabri, Sarah Conti, Daniel Grassel, Nicolo Macchi, and Laura Gutman. So congratulations to everyone that won a medal. It was a really, really great team event.
And those names were 100% accurate.
Yes, 100%. I feel very confident about the US names actually, but not so much the others. Um, so one thing I thought I would point out is I think it was yesterday the men's single skating short program started. So this is the same teams that we saw from the team skating, although there's more overall skaters. In the team event, there's only 5 teams. In the singles, it's like, I don't know, 20 or so, including multiple people from the same country. So, Ilya skated again, and although he got second in the team short program, he actually ended up getting first. So if you don't know, that means um, when he skates next in his free skating program, it'll take his score from the last one, and then that will partially decide if he ends up getting gold. So as of now, he's in a very good spot to win gold. And free skating is Friday, so that's when the medals will be given out. So one thing I wanted to talk about is if you haven't watched any figure skating at all, or if you do like figure skating and you haven't watched it this year, I wrote down some routines that I think are worth watching this year. So my like absolute favorite routine from this year, without a doubt, it's been running through my mind every day since, is Madison Chalk and Evan Bates' pair free dance routine. Uh, the use of the costume, the music, the intensity on their faces and stuff, and their like how in sync they were, it was just absolutely amazing. So if you're gonna watch any one routine, please watch that one. It was amazing. Next, we got Ilya Malinin's short and free skate routines, both of them. Even though he kind of struggled in both and fell at one point. I mean, he's a crowd favorite, and it was just very hype, and it's always fun to see someone do a backflip. Whether or not he's the first to do it, it's still really cool to see. And then for Canada, I got Steven Gogolev's short routine. He did like a 1920s bank robber themed routine, and he's like wearing a suit and tie. Just really cool and creative. I loved it. And then the next one, which I think is probably my second favorite, so I would highly recommend watching this one, was Yuma Kageyama's short routine. This was the routine that ended up beating Ilya in the short routine. This was absolutely amazing. Um, he does like a little dance at one point, and it's just so awesome. It's so wholesome and like it's just absolutely amazing. Like he killed it. And I thought I would mention a couple honorable mentions. These were still amazing, but they haven't really like stood out in my brain and memory at least. But they were still great. So this is Georgia's Anastasia Gubanova's free skate routine, USA Alyssa Liu's short program, Japan's Karyomi Sakamoto's free skate routine, and Italy's Matteo Rizzo's free skate routine. So Nick, I know you talked about not liking figure skating, but I have to ask, did you watch any routines this year?
I watched a few on Sunday, but I haven't watched all of them yet.
Okay,
Uh, Riley actually likes figure skating, so we were gonna watch that together when she got home.
great. I will say, if you're gonna watch any one routine, I highly recommend the Madison Chalk and Evan Bates routine. That might actually change your mind about figure skating, who knows?
So we have some medal updates from the Olympics. Now I wanted to try to find some world records and stuff. And then I kind of gave up because I looked up three different events and they were like, well, the tracks are different for each event, so there's not really a set record. So I kind of gave up, but I tried my best. So Franjo von Allmen of Switzerland got first or gold in the men's downhill alpine skiing. Italian Giovanni Franzoni got second or silver, and Dominic Paris of Italy got third or bronze. Franjo got 1 minute 51 seconds and 6.61. Giovanni got 1 minute 51.81, and Dominic got 1 minute 52.8.11. And Franjo von Allman won, like I said, he won the men's downhill gold. It was also his Olympic debut, and it's the first gold of the Olympic Games. For the second group of medals, like Christian said earlier, we tried to add them in order. We got the cross country women's 12 kilometer plus 12 kilometer skiathlon. Frida Karlsson finished in first or gold for Sweden, followed by her teammate Ebba Andersson from Sweden. She got silver. And then Heidi Wang from Norway got bronze. And those times were 53 minutes and 45 seconds, point two for Frida, 54 minutes and 36.2 seconds by Eba, and 55 minutes and 11.9 seconds for Heidi. Next up, we had the speed skating, 3,000 meter for the women's. That ended up coming out to Italy got first or gold for Francesca Lollobrigida, and she actually got the Olympic record in this race with 3 minutes 54.28 seconds. She's the first ever Italian woman to win the speed skating gold, and it was her 35th birthday, by the way. And is
Happy
the first
birthday.
was the first Italian to win speed skating gold since 2006. So, like I said, her record was 3 minutes 54 seconds and 54.28 seconds. The old record was set by Irene Schouten at the Beijing 2022 Olympics with a time of 3 minutes and 56.93 seconds. Norway's Rain Wilkland broke the old record, but was in a later heat, so it did not count, unfortunately. And then Canada's Valerie Matildas tied the old record, but was in the same heat as Francisca Labrigna. And also, for the first time since 2010, no Dutch medals for the women in the 3,000 meter speed skating were awarded. So, for Norway, Rang Wickland had a time of 3:56:54, and that was silver. And then Canada was Valerie Maltius with a time of 3 minutes 56 seconds, 0.93 seconds.
Next is women's individual normal hill ski jumping. So in first place, the gold goes to Anna Odin Stroem of Norway. Second place silver was Nika Prevk of Slovakia, and bronze went to Nozomi Maruyama of Japan.
The next event was the men's big air snowboard. First place or gold was to Japan Kira Kimura with a score of 179.5. Second place went to Japan Ryoma Kimata with a or silver with a score of 171.5, and gold went to Su Yiming of China with a score of 168.5. And I wanted to point out about this event, 17-year-old American Ollie Martin finished fourth. He fell on his first run, which hurt his score, but he was only 5.5 points from tying bronze despite having a broken arm. So I have a feeling that he's going to be a guy to watch out for in the next, uh, I would assume, 4 or 5 Olympics that he attends.
Yeah, I mean nothing's guaranteed, but definitely one to watch if he does come back. And as we mentioned earlier, the first medal for the US went to Breezy Johnson. Uh, this was after Lindsey Vonn crashed, so this was the same event Lindsey Vonn was participating in. So the US did actually end up winning despite Lindsey being out. So this was, of course, alpine skiing women's downhill. So US won gold, Breezy Johnson, with a result of 136.10. Silver went to Germany's Emma Eicher with a 136.14, and then bronze went to Italy's Sofia Goggia with a time of 136.69.
And then up next was the cross country skiing. This was the men's 10 kilometers plus the 10 kilometer skiathlon. So gold went to Norway's Johans Hosflot Kleibo. I got that name 100% accurate if you're wondering. 46 minutes and 11 seconds for him. For silver, France uh, skier Mathis Deslogs with a 46 minutes and 13 seconds. And then silver was Norway, Martin Lostrom Njeget with a time of 46 minutes and 13.1 seconds. So that was a pretty close finish between silver and bronze there. Zero point 0.1 seconds.
Next event was men's parallel giant slalom snowboarding. Benjamin Carl won his second gold medal in a row, and men's bronze came down to a photo finish. So gold went to Austria's Benjamin Carl, silver went to Korea's Kim Song Kyung, and bronze went to Bulgaria. I think it's Bulgaria. Bulgaria's Tervel Zamarov. While we're on that topic, women's parallel giant slalom results were gold for the Czech Republic's Zuzana Medorova, Austria's Sabine Payer, and Italy in bronze, Lucia Dalmaso.
I'm not going to say much about this, but I did want to say a little bit about the snowboarding event because I that's probably my favorite winter Olympic sport. So this is probably one of the sports I've watched the most is snowboarding, but I've tried to watch other sports like figure skating, and I also like watching skiing, of course. But in the giant slalom, um, Benjamin Carl, I thought was kind of funny. After he won the race, he just ripped his shirt off and then just started screaming and doing snow angels and stuff in the snow. And the photo finish, that was insane. It was literally by half an inch, maybe. So pretty cool to witness that in person, or not in person, but live. So after that event was the mixed biathlon event. Um, And actually, after the mixed biathlon, Italy passed Norway for total medals so far at this point.
But I think
Um,
Norway came back later.
Norway, yeah, Norway came back in there in first currently, but we'll talk about that later. So this is the mixed 4x600 relay biathlon, and first was France, which I heard that they dominate the biathlon. So um, their team was Eric Parrott, Quentin Fillon, Malay, Lou Jean Monat, Julian Simon, and their time was 1:04:15.5. Italy came in silver with Tommaso Giacomo, Lucas Hofer, Dorothy Weir, Lisa Vitozzi, and their time was 1:04:41.3. And then Germany came in silver with Justice Strello, Philip Roth, Vanessa Voigt, and Franziska. Yeah, however you say that. I'm not a German expert, but it's 1:05:20.8 was their time.
And Sander Eatrim of Norway broke the record for men's 5,000 meter speed skating. The old record was 6:08.84, held by Nils van der Poel of Sweden in 2022 that was set in 2022 Olympic Games. Medojilek of Czechia also broke the old record, although he finished in second. One thing to know is you'll notice that there's a lot of speed skating records in different events. There's different kinds of speed skating. A lot of records this year. Uh, I heard that a lot of the skaters said the ice is very fast this year. I heard others maybe complain that it's a little slippery though, because I think it was rotating between speed skating and figure skating. So I don't know. So it is kind of weird. I think it's a lot of factors. Like this is a really good talent pool coming off of some old time record holders coaching them and stuff, but also just good ice. But nonetheless, so for the men's 5,000 meter speed skating, Norway took gold. That was Sander Eatrim. Czechia got second. Like I said, that was Mido Dej Jilic, and Italy took bronze with Ricardo Lorello.
Moving on to luge, Max Langehan of Germany set the track record for the men's singles luge with the first run of 52.924. And on his second run, he got the record with 52.902. There was less than 3 seconds between first and 10th place, is what I wanted to point out. which is kind of insane.
That's
So
actually pretty typical, I feel like. It typically comes down to decimals for the top three at least.
yeah, I guess so, since it's kind of not dependent on the athlete so much as
Well,
I
it
don't even
is.
know.
They're taking the turns to a point where they
Yeah.
can save time and stuff.
Anyway, so like I said, first or gold was German athlete Max Langerhans with a time of 3:31.191. Silver went to, I think that's Austria, to Jonas Mueller, and he had a time of 3:31.787. And bronze went to Italy, Dominic Fischnaller, with a time of 3:32.125.
And Femke Koch of the Netherlands broke the Olympic women's 1,000 meter speed skating record with a time of 1:12.59. This was originally held by Mio Takagi of Japan with a time of 1:13.19 in 2022. So Femke's teammate, Judah Liedrum, which we mentioned earlier, broke her record minutes later with a time of 1:12.31. So that was kind of insane. So for the women's 1,000 meter speed skating final, the Netherlands took gold. That was Judah Liedrum, as well as silver. That was Femke Koch, and then Japan took bronze. That was Miho Takagi, who was the previous record holder.
And then moving on to alpine skiing, the men's team combined event. So Switzerland took gold with Franjo van Almen, which was his second gold at this point, and Tanguy Neff with a time of 2:44.04. Uh, Austria took silver with Vincent Kretschmeier and Manuel Feller with a time of 2:45.03. And Switzerland tied for silver with Austria with Marco Odermatt and Loic Miedlard with the same time of 2:45.03.
So does no one get bronze?
Yeah, so no one gets bronze.
Why not just give it to the team in fourth?
I don't know. I kind of wondered that myself when I looked at the standings and watched the event.
And for women's slopestyle freestyle skiing, uh, Switzerland got gold. That was Mathilda Grimed. China got silver. That was Eileen Gu. And Canada got bronze. That was Megan Oldham.
I did want to talk about this a little bit too. So Eileen Gu was actually the favorite going into this event, but she ended up wiping out on her final run. And then there is a 17-year-old. I don't remember her name. It's like Madison Kroom or something. She looked really good. She ended up wiping out on her last run, which kept her out of the contention for a medal. But hope to see improvement and hope to see her eventually win a medal in the coming years. Moving on to the men's individual normal hill ski jumping. Uh, Germany took gold with Philip Raymond, 274.1. Silver Poland was Kasper Tomaski or Tomasiak. I don't know. 270.7. Bronze went to Japan, ran Nikaido at 266, and Switzerland tied with Japan in bronze with athlete Gregor Deschwanden with the same score of 266.
And for women's big air snowboarding, Japan took gold. That was Kokomo Murasa. And silver was New Zealand's Zoe Sadowski Sanat. And then bronze went to South Korea's Yu Sangun.
Next, we have men's and women's individual sprint for cross country skiing. Sweden swept the board for the women's side. They took bronze, silver, and gold. Lynn Svan, Jonah Sudling, and Maha Davisk. For the men's side, Norway took first with uh, Johannes Hasflat Klebo. This is his second gold at this point. He finished with a time of 3:39.74. This is the second U.S. athlete to get a medal, with USA getting silver with Ben Ogden with a time of 3:40.61, and Norway finished with bronze Oscar Opsedad Vik with a time of 3:46.55.
And for mixed 2,000-meter relay short track speed skating, that's a mouthful, we have Italy taking gold. That included Chiara Betty, Elisa Comfortola, Ariana Fontana, Thomas Nodalini, Pietro Zigel, Luca Spihinhauser, and then Canada took silver. That team included Courtney Surratt, Kim Boutin, Florence Brunel, Felix Russell, William Dongenou, and Stephen Dubois. And then Belgium took bronze. That team included Hannah Desmet, Stinge Desmet, probably related, I guess, Taneka Den Dolk, and Ward Petrier.
For the men's 20-kilometer individual biathlon, Norway took gold with Johan Olav Button with a time of 51:31.5. France took silver with Eric Parrott with a time of 51:46.3. And Norway took bronze with Sturla Holm Lagrede with a time of 52:19.8.
And then for women's team combined alpine skiing, we had Austria taking gold. That was Ariana Riedler and Katharina Huber. Germany took silver. That was Kira Vidal Winkelmann and Emma Eicher. And then the US took bronze. This was Jacqueline Wiles and Paula Molzan.
Up next, we had the men's slopestyle, which is the freestyle skiing. First place or gold, we had Norway Burke Ruud with a time of 86.28. Silver, we had the USA Alex Hall, which was a favorite, but ended up losing, or I
It's not a
almost said
time.
losing. Yeah, it's a score, not a time. My bad. Silver went to Alex Hall from the USA. He was a favorite, but ended up not getting gold. And then silver went to New Zealand, Luca Harrington.
And then for women's singles in luge, the gold went to Germany's Julia Tarbit. Silver went to Latvia's Elina Bota, and then bronze went to US's Ashley Farquharson.
So for the mixed doubles curling, the bronze medal, Italy beat Great Britain 5-3 for the bronze, and then for the gold medal game, so Sweden ended up beating the U.S. 6-5. So Sweden took the gold medal, and the USA took the silver medal. And this is the U.S.'s first time ever getting a medal in mixed doubles curling.
Yeah, it was a very close game. A lot of people were rooting for the US because they had been doing pretty good all tournament. Unfortunately, they just couldn't quite get it done, but it was history made it nonetheless. And for mixed team ski jumping on the normal hill, Slovakia took gold. That team consisted of Nika Vodin, Ans Lenisek, Nika Prefk, and Domin Prefk. And then Norway took silver. That was Anna Odin Strom, Christopher Eriksson Sundell, Irene Maria Kavandal, and Marius Lindvik. And then Japan took bronze. That team was Nozomi Maruyama, Ryoyu Kobayashi, Sara Takanashi, and Rin Nikaido.
Up next, we got the Alpine Skiing Men's Super G. So for gold, went to Switzerland's Franjo van Almen. This is his third Olympic gold medal so far. For silver, USA, Ryan Katran Siegel. And then for Switzerland, they got bronze with Marco Odermatt.
And then for the women's 15-kilometer individual biathlon, France took gold and silver. That was Julia Simon and Lou Gimono. And then Bulgaria took bronze. That was Laura Histova. For women's moguls freestyle skiing, the U.S. took gold and silver. That was Elizabeth Limley and Jalen Koff. And then France took bronze. That was Perrine Lafont. And then for men's Gunderson Normal Hill Nordic combined, Norway took gold. That was Jens Loras Oftebro. Austria took silver. That was Johannes Lamparter. And then Finland took bronze. That was Eero Heroven. Then we got luge men and women's doubles finals. So for the men's, Italy took gold. That was Emmanuel Ryder and Simon Keyneswalder. Austria took silver. That was Thomas Stu and Wolfgang Kindl. And Germany took bronze. That was Tobias Windel and Tobias Arlt. And then for the women's double, Italy took gold again, just like the men. And that was Andrea Voter and Marianne Oberhofer. Germany took silver. That was Dorana Eitberger and Magdalena Machina. And then Austria took third. That was Selena Eagle and Laura Michaela Kipp. So for both men and women, Italy, Austria, and Germany got on the podium. So those must be the favorites every year for luge, is my guess.
For the men's 1,000 meter speed skating, Jordan Holtz took gold for the U.S. For the Netherlands, Jenning Debu took silver, and China took bronze with Ning Zhongyan. Jordan Stolz broke the previous long-standing record of 1 minute and 7.18 seconds, which is set by Netherlands' Gerard van Velde on February 16th of 2002 at the Salt Lake City Games. This is the largest margin of victory on the Olympic level for this event, which was half a second since 1984.
It's kind of crazy to think about. And as we were recording this, this event just finished up. The ice dancing final had completed. So they did an event yesterday. I can't remember what it was called. And then they did another event today and then combined the scores. And France got gold. This was Lawrence Fournier Bundry and Guillaume Cizeron. The US, Madison Chalk and Evan Bates got silver, and then Canada's Piper Giles and Paul Poirier got bronze. One thing to note is that France got a score of 225.82 and the US got a score of 224.39. Now I saw from the day before that the previous event was within like 1 point of each other as well, and people were very upset online. I saw multiple people, including French people, saying that they disagreed with the score and that the US was clearly the better routine. I did hear that the judges panel might consist of a couple French people. I also heard that years ago, maybe 2018, 2016, there was some sort of scandal for France to for French judges to like vote a certain way to ensure that Russia beat the US and they like paid them or something. It was a really big scandal, I'm pretty sure. I don't know a ton about it. But I just saw that after this results got announced, people again are upset. And so this might be something that we talk about later if more news comes out about evidence about cheating or a scandal, if there's any sort of lawsuit. I don't know. I never watched the French routine, so I can't say from personal experience. They obviously weren't a part of the team uh, routine, but just based on what I saw from Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, I find it very hard to believe anyone could top that. So I'm not saying it's a scandal, but I see why people might be thinking that. So that's kind of unfortunate. That might be their last Olympics as well, ending on silver. That's kind of unfortunate. But with that being said, we now have a current medal count of the different teams. So Norway currently has 13 total medals, that being 7 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze. Italy has 13 as well, with 4 gold, 2 silver, and 7 bronze. The United States has 12 total with 4 gold, 6 silver, and 2 bronze. Germany has 8, Austria has 8, Japan has 8, Switzerland has 7, France has 7, Sweden has 6, Canada has 4, Netherlands have 3, China has 3, Slovenia has 2, Czechia has 2, South Korea has 2, New Zealand has 2, Bulgaria has 2, Poland has 1, Latvia has 1, Finland has 1, and Belgium has 1. So honestly, the US are in a pretty decent spot if they can just get some more golds and stuff. Unfortunately, that figure skating event that just happened was one less gold that we probably should have won. Honestly, I'll be happy if we finish top 3 in total medals or most golds. We're much more known for the summer games.
The U.S. only had 9 last year, right? So it would be an improvement from last year.
Did they only have 9?
I think from what you posted last week, there was only 9 for the U.S.
But there also might be more medals total this year, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a factor.
Well, last year, like Norway dominated with like 30 medals or something, and the next person also dominated.
All right, now we're going to move on to the college football news. Uh, Following the trend of the last couple weeks, there's not a ton of news, go figure. But we're going to start out with some news about a bowl game. The LA Bowl is discontinuing after 5 seasons. Washington beat Boise State 38 to 10 in the last LA Bowl game. Do you know any like info as to why it's ending? Is it like money issues?
That's just what I kind of assumed. I didn't know for sure.
Okay.
I think I did see something about that it was supposed to be one of the biggest bowl games, but it kind of turned into a conference championship game. And then it was kind of just like a regular bowl game. But they were trying to aim it towards one of the biggest bowl games of the year.
I'm sure the college football expansions don't help.
Yeah, I believe I saw that Rob Gronkowski was the host of this bowl game every year, or just about every year. Get some illegal activity going on.
As always.
So, former Virginia wide receiver Jamal Edrin was arrested Thursday and charged with 1 count of rape and 1 count of abduction. The school said he is no longer enrolled at their university. Edrin was Virginia's second leading receiver last season and was expected to be a starter next season. He was charged after an investigation began on August 25th when a person reported being sexually assaulted the day before. There's currently an ongoing investigation with no other updates.
In other news, North Dakota State has agreed to a deal to join the Mountain West in football only for 2026. The school is expected to pay nearly $12 million to join the league, which is in addition to the $5 million it will need to pay to the NCAA to move to FBS. The deal is set to be announced on Monday, and NDSU's move is only for football and will give the Mountain West 10 football teams for 2026. NDSU has won 10 of the last 15 FCS football championships. So when it says this is only for 1 year, does that mean they could go back? They're just kind of testing the waters?
Yeah, I believe they're just kind of testing to see if they can kind of compete in uh, the FBS level.
Well, this will definitely be pretty cool. I'm curious how this might affect the transfers. Like, I don't know if this would give them more transfers, because like I feel like to some extent their budget might get cut because they have to pay all this money.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. But it's cool to see these teams coming up from FCS. Like last year, I believe Delaware moved up, and then the year before that, Kennesaw State. So, and we just saw Kennesaw State have a good season this year. So I'm kind of excited to see.
Where did Kennesaw go? What division?
They're in Conference USA,
Ah, cool.
and Delaware is also in Conference USA.
So yeah, I do wish them the best. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. Hopefully they can do well and then stay in it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if they can pull a Kennesaw State and hopefully get a good winning season in the next year or two.
And for our last little bit of news for college football, we have a little bit of coaching updates. So Rutgers is set to hire Drake head coach Joe Woodley as an assistant coach on the defensive staff. Prior to Drake, Woodley won an NAIA championship at Grandview, where he went 72 and 5 as the head coach. He didn't lose a regular season game. Wow, that's pretty impressive for any division.
They did say that his defensive position hasn't been confirmed yet by the team, but I did see he had some positions as offensive and defensive. I don't know if they were coordinators or what they were, but I mean, he's got a vast background that could really help him, especially if he becomes a coach for FBS school.
Yeah, could be a really big pickup for Rutgers, but time will tell. Who knows? Maybe he'll like do really well and then move on. A lot of coaches seem to be doing that a lot lately.
Illinois is hiring former Montana head coach Bobby Hawk as the defensive coordinator. He spent 14 years at Montana before stepping down recently.
All right, now we're gonna move on to the NFL. I expect after this week, our news for the NFL will start to get a little smaller and smaller as we go until March 11th when free agency starts. And then the draft, which is April 23rd. So first, we're gonna talk about the Super Bowl. So what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Um, I will say the first half was kind of boring. I mean, it was cool to see both of the defenses locked down. I would have liked to see a little bit more of Jackson Smith and the Jigba later in the third half, like we talked about earlier. He went out with an injury, and I believe it was a concussion protocol. Um, but anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed watching Kenneth Walker run all over the Patriots defense after they'd been shutting down the pass game. And then obviously the Seahawks getting 6 sacks against Drake May. That was fun to watch the defense just terrorize him.
Yeah, all my friends that I was watching it with, and I saw people online are talking about how it's like the worst Super Bowl ever. I think it's recency bias. I think the Rams and the Patriots was a much worse Super Bowl. Um, Personally, I enjoy watching defensive battles sometimes. So I wouldn't even put it in like the top 5 worst Super Bowls of all time. And in fact, I don't even necessarily find blowout games to be boring. Like to me, that says that one team is really good, and that doesn't make the game boring necessarily. I think that makes it telltale of what the truth is about the two teams. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching the defensive battles, like you said. Like watching sacks gets your blood going, get your blood pumping, as much as touchdowns, I feel like to some extent. So, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't the greatest Super Bowl ever, but I am very happy that the Seahawks won. It really feels like a full circle moment, after 10 plus years, uh, to be able to beat the team that beat us the last time we were in the Super Bowl. Now we're going to talk about some news about the Super Bowl, like stats and stuff like that. So this was the first Super Bowl ever where both teams lost in week one. Now, one of those teams lost to the Raiders. I wonder if that is relevant to the results.
One of those teams lost to a healthy 49ers team.
Yep. You can guess which is which.
Got it right. Or maybe not. Kenneth Walker had the second most rushing yards in a Super Bowl half. Uh, I believe it was the other running back was Terrell Davis was the only other running back, I believe.
No, see, I hadn't heard that he had that stat. It makes a lot more sense maybe why he won the MVP now, even though he didn't have a touchdown. This also was the fifth Super Bowl without a touchdown in the first half.
It was the second Super Bowl to have zero touchdowns by the first 3 quarters. Uh, the other Super Bowl was the Patriots versus Rams.
Jason Myers, the kicker for the Seahawks, broke the record for most field goals in a Super Bowl. He also broke the record for most points as a kicker in a Super Bowl game. And while we're at it, he kind of had one of the quietest record-breaking seasons in NFL history, I'd say. He broke the record for most points in a season, including postseason, previously held by LaDainian Tomlinson with 198 in 2006. He beat it with a total score of 206 points in a season. Honestly, I feel like he got snubbed of MVP. A kicker's never won MVP in the Super Bowl or the regular season. So that would have been really cool. And honestly, he had a case for it. He scored 16 points, which is more than the Patriots scored. And he went 5 for 5. So do you think he got snubbed?
Did he score 16? I thought he scored 17.
Maybe it was 17. Either way, it was a lot. You feel like he got snubbed?
Um, to an extent. I mean, Kenneth Walker still had to get him in that situation to kick the field goals.
Yeah. I've heard that some people argue, well, the quarterback has to hand Kenneth Walker the ball. So, uh, I think I just think a kicker might never win MVP, which is unfortunate. What if a game ends like 3-0 and it was only the kicker? Like, what are you gonna do then?
Derek Hall got a strip sack at the end of the third quarter, which led to Seattle's first touchdown. Um, I did also want to point out about Derek Hall. I don't know if many people know this about him, but he was born 4 weeks early and was actually told he had no chance of surviving.
Yeah, I think he had like a 99% chance of dying according to the doctor. That's what he told his mom. So that's a great story. I also want to point out that on that strip sack, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Devin Witherspoon was about to sack Drake May, so that was a large part of why it happened,
Yeah, Devin Witherspoon had a big game.
for sure. I mean, I knew our defense was good, but man, that was insane. And really, the only points that the Patriots scored was pretty much garbage time points.
Yeah, I also saw that um, the Patriots left tackle, Will Campbell, I think his name is, the guy from LSU, he's a rookie. Apparently, he allowed like 16 pressures or something during the Super Bowl, which is the most out of any Super Bowl lineman.
Well, I think they said that Drake May had been sacked the most of anyone. I think at least in the playoffs. I'm not sure about regular season. So it's kind of scary to think what they might be able to do if they actually get a good O-line.
Well, I did see Will Campbell allowed a lot of pressures throughout the playoffs, and then he came out and said something about injuring his ankle and along the way, and he was like, "That's not an excuse," but I just want everybody to know I injured myself.
Yeah, I don't know.
He wanted some petty points.
Speaking of sacks, with 6 sacks in the Super Bowl, the Seahawks are now tied for second most sacks in a Super Bowl of any team. First place is held by the Steelers with 7 sacks.
The Seahawks actually tied this at one point, but they ruled uh, one of the interceptions to be. Um, it was like a strip sack or something. They ruled it initially, and then they ruled it as a interception.
Ah,
So they did tie the record for like 5 minutes, and then the refs were like, "Yeah, that was a strip sack, or that was an interception." Anyways, so if you placed your bets on the Gatorade bath, hopefully you picked yellow because it was yellow.
and they actually showed them stirring it way before they poured it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
So Sam Darnold became the first USC quarterback to win a Super Bowl as a starter. Kind of surprising considering I think USC at one point had the most NFL players, like in terms of like all time. But I don't know how many quarterbacks of those were.
So Kenneth Walker rushed for the most yards in a Super Bowl since Terrell Davis in 1998.
Which is kind of crazy because he only had like 138.
Yeah, I think Terrell Davis had 153 or 150 something. I don't remember.
You would think some running back would have like 200 yards or something.
Well, maybe, but since you're on the biggest stage, I wouldn't really expect it because usually the defenses are a
Yeah,
lot better
usually
than.
the defenses are good, and also I think they run the ball a bit more predictably in the Super Bowl to play it safe, so it can be blocked easily. Speaking of Kenneth Walker, his dad had never been to an NFL game in his life, and he went for the first time to go watch his son win Super Bowl MVP. I saw a clip of him in the stands. He didn't look too thrilled, but I don't know if he's just like a not like a social person or what. I would have to assume that he's pretty proud of his son. I mean, at least I would hope.
I also want to note about this that it's the first time a running back has won MVP in the Super Bowl since 1998, which was Terrell Davis. Mike McDonald became the third youngest coach to win the Super Bowl. I believe, I know Sean McVay was one of the youngest ones, and then the other one was Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was 36 years and 323 days old, and Sean McVay was 36 years and 20 days old. So Mike Tomlin was 300 days older.
Yeah, so that's really cool, and hopefully he sticks with the team for a long time. Do you think he's a better coach than Pete Carroll?
It's kind of hard to say because it's only his second season,
That's fair.
but I believe he could be better than Pete Carroll.
I think he's probably better on the technical side of things, but I think Pete was probably better in terms of like team motivation, pep talks, that sort of thing. But you're right, it is kind of early to say. Sam Darnold is now the first quarterback to win the Super Bowl after playing with 5+ teams. Really just a highlight to his endurance and just ability to keep going despite what others are saying and the kind of unfortunate years of him having to sit the bench at times.
And despite seeing ghosts,
Yeah. So that's a really great story, honestly. I'm still not like super in love with him. Like I wouldn't mind getting a better quarterback, but I don't see us getting a new quarterback anytime soon.
yeah, they'll probably stick out his contract or at least go next year and see.
But we do have potentially some decent backup prospects, right?
We currently have,
Like Jalen Milrow
yeah,
specifically.
Jalen Milrow. Yeah,
Like I could see his running ability to be very valuable if we ever go that route.
I could see him leaving before he gets any time,
Yeah, I could see that too.
like requesting a trade or them trading him away for something.
The Seahawks now also become the 17th franchise to win multiple Super Bowls.
Speaking of multiple Super Bowls, Cooper Kupp becomes the second wide receiver to win Offensive Player of the Year and win two Super Bowls. The only other player was Jerry Rice. So, kind of a weird ESPN type stat, but congratulations to Cooper Kupp on getting more Super Bowls than Matt Stafford.
And this was, I think, his worst year statistically.
Yeah, I did see there was an injury that kind of made his career go off path. He didn't play the best as last year at the Rams, and they released him.
But it's still really cool to see him bounce back like that after going to a new team. Um, Aiden Durd became the first British coordinator to win a Super Bowl for the Seahawks. Well, for anyone.
But he's the defensive coordinator for the Seahawks.
Yeah. So that was that's something we mentioned last week. So that's kind of cool to see. Random but cool.
So I kind of wanted to bring this up because it was all over the place. So after the Seahawks beat the 49ers, they said we'd be back to finish smoking these cigars. So they left half smoked cigars in Levi Stadium's visitor locker room. And I didn't know this at first, but the NFC and the AFC take turns being the home team in the Super Bowl, so it made sense that they left them in the visitor locker room for when they got back. Now, whether this is true or not, I'm sure they had some cleaning people go in after they were in there, and they probably threw those cigars away. But I think that'd be funny if they were the same cigars that they left in Levi Stadium and got to finish smoking them after they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of a power move. Also, the Patriots now have the most Super Bowl losses in NFL history. I know we talked about this last week. No matter what they did, they were going to make history as either the team with the most Super Bowl wins or the most Super Bowl losses in NFL history. So, congratulations to the Patriots. Let's give a big round of applause to the Patriots fans out there.
We'd also like to say, as Seahawks fans, we're very proud to make let the Patriots achieve history
Yeah,
against us.
yeah, you guys are welcome.
So the Seahawks are the first team to go the entire postseason without a turnover and win the Super Bowl. And a reminder, Sam Darnold led the league in turnovers in the regular season. So a big turnaround in the playoffs for the offense.
Also, fun fact, the Seahawks only trailed for 1 minute and 35 seconds this postseason. That's the fewest amount of time trailing by a Super Bowl champion since the Redskins in 1991.
Do you know who they were trailing against?
I don't, but let's see, they played the 49ers round one, right?
Yep.
They didn't trail against them. Then they played the Rams next.
Yep.
Oh, then it had to be the Rams.
Yeah, it was the Rams right before halftime. I was seeing if you remember it or not.
I was thinking they played four teams for some reason. I was gonna say the Rams, but because I knew it was a close game. But again, I didn't watch that game. I was on a trip. So, all right, now we're gonna talk about some other news in the NFL. So, we got some more international game news. The Cowboys will play the NFL's first ever regular season game next season in Rio de Janeiro. No other team has been announced yet, but Dallas will be the home team.
Rams will play the 49ers in Melbourne, Australia next season, which will be the first NFL game to ever be played in Australia.
Yeah, so France gets Browns Saints, and Australia gets 49ers Rams. Seems fair.
And the Rams are the home team. I just looked it up, that game, in case anybody was wondering. So now we'll be moving on to some coaching updates. The Eagles' offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, announced he is leaving the organization.
Miami running back coach Matt Merritt has accepted a job as the Arizona Cardinals running back coach.
Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz resigned as Browns defensive coordinator after not receiving the head coach job. He is likely to sit out next season.
The Rams hire Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. His role has not been announced yet, though.
And finally, the Raiders and their new head coach, Seahawks former offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, have reached agreement on a 5-year deal.
Honestly, I feel like we could benefit this if we get the right guy. The one thing I worry about is the fact that a lot of people have already been hired, so we might have to promote someone from our organization or something.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get Cliff Kingsbury or even one of the other coordinators that have already got a head coach job.
Yeah, I mean, Clint, don't get me wrong, was a pretty good offensive coordinator, but I didn't love it. I felt like our offense could have been better. I don't know if that's his fault, but definitely in the first half of games. So now we're going to talk about the awards for this season. Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels was named Assistant Coach of the Year.
Mike Vrabel was named coach of the year. I did want to talk about this a little bit though. So this is a very debatable. I get the Patriots went 4-13 last season, but Mike Vrabel coached the Titans and took them to the playoffs before. Mike McDonald um, led the Seahawks to the highest point differential in franchise history, had the best record in franchise history, had the 12th best DVOA of all time, had the best defense this year. There's just a lot of things that go into that. I know there's other coaches and players that take effect into that.
Yeah, I mean, those are good points, but I do feel like going from a four-win team to a Super Bowl contender is probably a bit more deserving in my mind, assuming they didn't tank.
Well, if we wanted to kind of play that way, Kyle Shanahan led the 49ers to the playoffs with half of their uh, star players.
Well,
They
that's different though. I mean, most of the time, Coach of the Year is coaches that turn programs around. I feel like he meets that criteria. Certainly, McDonald did turn the Seahawks around, but it wasn't as big of a jump as it was for Mike Vrabel in 1 year. I feel like because he already had the Seahawks in a good position last year, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bobby Wagner was named Walter Payton Man of the Year. I believe this is not the first time he's won that award, right?
I don't think so.
Seahawks legend.
Christian McCaffrey was named Comeback Player of the Year. Seems like him and Joe Burrow like to share this award.
He also played piano at a Zach Bryan concert for some reason. And Joe Thuney was named the Protector of the Year.
Despite being a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, that was the first time he's ever won Protector of the Year.
Huh.
So, pretty interesting.
I don't remember ever hearing that award. Is it new?
I don't know when it came out.
Because if it's
When
fairly
did
new, it kind of makes sense why he
Protector
didn't win it.
of the Year NFL start? Protector of the Year started in 2025. Oh, the first winner is Joe Tooney. Never mind.
That's about as wrong as you can possibly be about something. In other news, Tyler Shue was named Pepsi Zero Sugar Rookie of the Year. What?
Pepsi Zero Sugar. You've never heard of Pepsi Zero Sugar?
Yeah,
Well, he was the Pepsi Zero Sugar Rookie of the
I
Year.
guess I read it as Pepsi Zero, comma, Sugar Rookie of the Year.
Carson Schwessinger was named Defensive Rookie of the Year
How come they don't have any advertisement for that?
because that Pepsi Zero Sugar one was just for like Pepsi's own award. I don't know.
But
I
Rookie
don't
of
know
the
how to
Year has
explain
always
it.
existed.
Yeah, but it's usually offensive or defensive. They don't have just
Uh,
Rookie of the Year
oh, they
like the
don't?
NBA.
Oh, gotcha. Alright, I guess that makes sense then. And Tataroa McMillan was named Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Miles Garrett was unanimously named Defensive Player of the Year. If you don't know why, then obviously you haven't been listening to the podcast.
He broke the sack record in a season. That's not his first Defensive Player of the Year award, is it?
No, he's won other ones. I don't know how many though.
Yeah, I figured. And JSN was named Offensive Player of the Year, which was kind of a big controversy because of the fact that Drewski announced his name very poorly on stage. Yeah.
Barry
That's all I'm
Sanders
gonna
was
say
not very
about that.
happy.
Yeah, Barry Sanders was mad. But I get why people are upset. It is kind of disrespectful to not get someone's name right.
That and kind of disrespectful the way he said it too. Like how he pronounced it the one time.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was just looking for laughs, but it's not worth getting into though. This is a drama-free podcast, okay?
So we'll be moving on from that.
Except for when we talk about figure skating, because apparently we disagree.
We agree to disagree on most stuff. Matthew Stafford was named MVP and announced he will return in 2026.
Well deserved, I'd say.
Yeah, according to the stats and the teams he's played, and
Yeah, it was really cool to see his daughters and wife there with him, supporting him. This also was the closest MVP race all time in terms of first place votes that did not result in co-MVPs. Matthew Stafford received 24, Drake May received 23, Josh Allen received 2, Justin Herbert received 1. The guy that voted for Justin Herbert said, and I quote, "The guy had the worst offensive line in the NFL all season, and despite that, he was working miracles in almost every single game." Stafford's offensive line became two-fifths as bad as Herbert's for 5 minutes, and he became a turnover howitzer. He embodied value, which that is a good point, but I still think that's kind of a tough thing to argue when you look at the teams as a whole and stuff.
yeah, I I definitely think Matthew Stafford deserved it, though, regardless of what the votes say.
Honestly, long overdue with how consistent he's been.
Being 37 years old and still doing that.
In other news, there's been a development with face masks in the league. So the league announced Friday that they will be holding a crowdsourced competition designed to accelerate the development of cutting-edge football helmets and new standards for player safety. They are challenged to improve how the face masks absorb and reduce the effects of contact on the field. Most progress on helmet safety has come from improvements to the shell and padding, helping the overall rates of concussions. But this past season, 44% of in-game concussions resulted from impact to the player's face mask, up from 29% in 2015. Selected winners will receive up to $100,000 in aggregate funding, as well as expert development support to help move their concepts from the lab to the playing field. That's kind of cool, but you kind of would think that the NFL would already have testing and stuff going on, so I don't know, it's kind of odd at the same time.
I think they want to make sure it's done right and done through their engineers and stuff because they've already been working on player safety. Moving on, there's an update in the Hall of Fame. So, the Pro Football Hall of Fame will consider making changes to the voting panel and process of choosing Hall of Famers after outrage over Bill Belichick's omission. Hall of Fame President Jim Porter said the Hall plans to return to in person voting and discussion for the 50-member committee after meeting virtually because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He also stated the voting will likely happen closer to the annual reveal at NFL Honors the Thursday before the Super Bowl to reduce chances of leaks happening. He stated they will consider releasing vote totals and individual ballots in the future Hall of Fame classes. They will also look to replacing voters who might have violated the rules either by publicly discussing the off record debate about the candidates or by not voting for the most deserving candidates in each category. The president of Hall of Fame also said picking senior players over a coach because the players might not be guaranteed another chance as a finalist was not allowed, which is what they believed happened. And next, we will be moving on to our next segment of Ball and Order.
It's our new crime section. Although
We already talked about crime a
we
little
already
bit.
talked about crime,
We
so
could
it
make this
could
its
be.
own segment, Ball and Order.
Yeah, we're considering making our own segment that would encapsulate all sports crimes. Um, it would be a little odd though, because we would be talking about sports that we already talked about in different segments. But I think it would be enjoyable. So I think we should do that moving forward. First of all, we got former NFL linebacker Darren Lee was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the death of his girlfriend. Lee was also charged for tampering with evidence with a court date scheduled for February 11th. He was a New York Jets first-round pick in 2016 out of Ohio State. Preliminary findings indicate that the victim's death was a result of a homicide. Lee was previously arrested for assault and domestic violence in 2023. No other details have been released at this time. I like vaguely remember him at Ohio State, but either way, that's a terrible situation.
Kind of sad to hear that he killed his girlfriend, potentially.
Potentially, but it sounds like there's a lot of evidence for it from what I've heard. What do we got
Anyways,
next?
we got another guy who did some bad stuff, and his name is James Pierce Jr. for the Falcons. He's a rookie linebacker. So he is currently in jail as of Sunday on 5 felony charges following a domestic dispute with LA Sparks WNBA player Rickea Jackson. He was arrested Saturday on 2 felony counts of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and a felony count of aggravated stalking. Other charges include fleeing, eluding police officers, aggravated battery of a law enforcement officer, and a misdemeanor count of resisting an officer without violence to his person. He is currently on a $20,500 bond and was given a stay away order with regard to Rickea Jackson. James Pierce finished third in NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year and broke the Falcons' rookie record with a team leading 10.5 sacks.
Definitely could be a big loss for them.
Yeah, it would be a big loss for their defense. And then there was an update today that he allegedly crashed his vehicle into one being driven by Rakia multiple times and struck a police officer with the vehicle while evading arrest. So Rakia made a statement that Pierce was following her, and when she stopped her car at a red light, he got out of his car and attempted to open her driver's side door. And then the officer pulled up after the accident, and Pierce was standing by his car door with the door open, and the police officer pulled a gun on Pierce and ordered him to get to the floor. So Pierce immediately got back in his car. The officer tried to open the door, and Pierce shut the door again, then proceeded to drive away. I'm assuming he just hit the officer with his car when he drove
Yeah,
away.
probably. Which I think in most states, if not all of them, that can be considered a deadly weapon. So either way, though, he evaded arrest. So that's gonna be a pretty big issue probably among the other charges. All right. Now we're gonna move on to our last little bit of news for the NFL segment. Sadly, we have to report that Hall of Fame quarterback Sonny Jurgensen has passed away at 91. It was reported that he had passed of natural causes. For reference, in his college days, he helped Duke win back-to-back ACC titles in 54 and 55 as a quarterback and defensive back. He also held the single-season passing yards record for the Eagles and Redskins. He currently sits at number 2 on the Commanders' all-time passing yards leader and all-time passing touchdowns list. He's number 1 for passing touchdowns in a season for the Commanders with 31 touchdowns. He's also number 2 for passing touchdowns in a season with the Eagles with 32. Carson Wentz holds the record with 33. He also ranks top 40 in the NFL history for career passing touchdowns with 255 and interceptions with 189. After his playing career, he spent 38 years as an analyst on the Redskins broadcast before retiring in 2018. And fun fact, he once threw a 99-yard touchdown pass to Jerry Allen in 1968. So condolences to his family.
Yeah, you never want to hear about someone passing, especially someone who you love very dearly.
And now we're going to talk about the NBA segment. The NBA announced suspensions for the Pistons and Hornets fight that occurred during their game earlier this week. Isaiah Stewart has been suspended for 7 games, Miles Bridges from 4, Musa Diabate from 4, and then Jalen Duren for 2 games.
By the time this comes out, Jalen Dern will probably. Oh wait, tomorrow is the last set of games because of the All Star break. So, um,
So he
I was
doesn't get to
gonna.
play for a while, even
I
though it's only 2 games.
Yeah, I was gonna say he'll probably be on his last game of not being suspended when this comes out, but he probably will. But then he's got to wait almost a week because the All Star break. So the Spurs beat the Thunder again on February 4th. They are now 4-1 against them this year. Spurs kind of looking like a
Finals favorite.
yeah.
I would not be mad if Wemby gets his first ring. In other news, the Nets have waived Cam Johnson. He averaged 21.4 points per game over the last 3 seasons with the Nets. However, the Bucks later signed him. I saw that a lot of people were mad the Warriors didn't try to get him, but
Yeah, I saw people saying that a lot of people were upset that the Lakers didn't get him too.
yeah, he was definitely one of the top free agents this year. So a lot of teams probably wanted him.
Nikola Jokic passed Oscar Robertson for the second most triple doubles in NBA history. Um, this is a pretty impressive feat. I know Nikola Jokic is kind of like Russell Westbrook, where he consistently averages triple doubles, which Russell Westbrook is currently only 24 triple doubles ahead of Nikola Jokic. So Nikola could potentially break that next season.
That's crazy. And the Hornets were on an 8-game win streak for the first time since 1999. To add on to that, they went on to have a 9-game win streak. However, they lost to the Pistons eventually. One thing to note, though, they beat some pretty good teams during this streak. Some teams off the top of my head were the Rockets and the Spurs. So it's kind of cool, I guess, to see the Hornets finally get some success.
So the Timberwolves beat Toronto in Toronto for the first time since January 21st of 2004.
One thing I thought would be worth pointing out is that in a 4-game span, Cooper Flagg scored 32 points, 36 points, 34 points, and 49 points. And all of those games were losses. I don't know if after that span they also lost and he scored a bunch or what, but either way, it kind of just goes to show that the Mavericks really need to build a team around him, I feel like.
I mean, if they want to continue success with the team, they probably need to draft somebody to play and kind of develop with Cooper Flag. I'm looking it up right now. He only averaged like 2 points a game, or not two, 11 points against the Spurs in the following game, and then 27 points against the Suns, which they lost both of those too. So they're on like a, let's see, so far back it's like a 7 game losing streak right now. But yeah, they probably need to draft somebody next year that'll end up helping Cooper Flag because I don't think he can do it by himself, unfortunately. At one point during this season, after the trade deadline, the Bulls had 9 guards on their roster with no one taller than 6'9" on the team. However, the Bulls sent some of their guards to the G League and they went off, like off, with Mac McClung and Yuki Kawamura. And Mac McClung ended up scoring 33 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 3-pointers made, while Yuki had 25 points and 13 assists with 1 turnover.
Yeah, I feel like both of these guys have been kind of getting underutilized by teams. I think you put them on the right team that trusts them, they're actually going to give you success. Um, Especially Yuki, man. He is an assist beast, and he plays pretty decent defense and stuff for his height too. I saw some people were calling the Bulls the Shigardo Bulls because of how many guards they had. Uh, we thought it would be worth pointing out that the Heat blew a 22-point lead against the Celtics earlier this week.
So Austin Reeves scored 35 points against the 76ers and broke the record for the quickest 35 plus point game in Lakers history. He did this in 25 minutes played. So that's pretty impressive that he was able to get 35 points in 25 minutes. That's like an average of 1 1/4, maybe. I don't know. I'm not good at quick math like that.
So we talked about some of these trades, but we thought it would be worth pointing out that Mike Conley, he was traded by the Timberwolves to the Bulls on February 3rd. The Bulls then traded him to the Hornets on February 4th, which then he was waived by the Hornets on February 6th. Then the Timberwolves re-signed him later that day. So it's really weird, but it kind of makes sense. A lot of times with trades, you got to throw in an extra player to trade off other things. And when you have a veteran like that who's as old as he is, he's the perfect kind of player for that because he has more value than he probably should for his age. Um, but he's not good enough to be like worth a ton, you know? So he's a kind of like a throw in a trade package type guy. But either way, that must have been an insane couple days for him.
It would have been funny if you would have been before the trade deadline. He got traded again from the Timberwolves after they re-signed him.
Yeah. I thought maybe I'm misremembering, but I swear that you couldn't trade players like back to back that quickly.
I think that used to be a thing, but I don't think it is anymore, which is kind of weird. But because now we're seeing stuff like this where he went back to the team he was originally traded from. But anyway, moving on, KD ended up scoring his 1,000th 20-point game in his career last night, and I believe that was against the Clippers. So he scored his 1,000th 20-point game against the Clippers. So that's pretty impressive because I know KD hasn't been in the league as long as LeBron. So that's probably 90% of his career that he's had a 20-point game. I wanted to mention that the NBA will be bringing back the Shooting Stars Challenge this year. So the format, I don't know if you remember this Shooting Stars Challenge. I do a little bit. So there's a 4-team format of 3 players each with 2 NBA players and 1 NBA legend. They will compete in a 2-round uh, rim shooting competition. So the teams will compete one at a time and will have 1 minute and 10 seconds to score points from 7 shooting locations. Teams must shoot from the locations in order, starting at location 1 and ending at location 7. Each player on the team must shoot from each location, and the teams must advance from one shooting location to the next as a unit. The first round, the 2 teams with the most points end up advancing to the final round, and in the final round, the team with the highest score will be the winner. So the shooting locations, the first shot is at the right of the lane of the layup dunk area. Uh, Shot 2 is approximately 18 inches from the right baseline, which is those are both 2 pointers. Shot number 3 is from the right elbow, which is also 2 points, so right outside the free throw line. And then shot number 4 is from the right wing. That's a 3 pointer. Shot number 5 is from the top of the key, which is 2 points. It's right at the top of the free throw line. And then shot number 6 is a left corner 3 pointer. And shot number 7 is a longer ranged 3 pointer. So basically a logo 3.
And the Shooting Stars teams will be Team All-Star, which is Scotty Barnes, Richard Hamilton, and Chet Holmgren. Team Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Allen Houston, and Karl Anthony Towns. Team Cameron with Con Knuppel, Corey Maggette, and Jalen Johnson. And then Team Harper with Dylan Harper, Ron Harper Sr., and Ron Harper Jr. So if you haven't picked up, each team has one legend player and then 2 other current players. And the slam dunk contest was members were also announced. We have Carter Bryant of the Spurs, Jackson Hayes of the Lakers, Kershaw Johnson of the Heat, and Jace Richardson of the Magic. And the 3-point contest also got announced. We got Devin Booker, Con Knuppel, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, Bobby Portis, and Norman Powell.
Real quick, I just want to point out that Damian Lillard's in the 3 point contest despite not playing a game this season and still being injured. But next, we'll be moving on to the releases and signings of this past week. So the Lakers are signing guard Kobe Buffkin to a 2-year deal with a team option for the 2026-27 season. Buffkin has starred for the South Bay Lakers, which is the G League team, and will now join the Lakers in his 3rd NBA season to fill the 15th roster spot. The Warriors are also signing 2-way guard Pat Spencer to a contract for the rest of the season to make him a full-time NBA player. The Cavaliers are signing 2-way forward Naquan Tomlin to a new 2-year, $3 million guaranteed contract, and sources say Tomlin has served as a reliable, energetic reserve for the Cavs before his signing. The Spurs are releasing Jeremy Shelchan to allow him to become a free agent. He was a 2023 All-Rookie team member.
And we didn't quite get to finish up the trade deadline trades last week, so here's the remaining trades that we missed. The Orlando Magic traded Tyus Jones to the Charlotte Hornets for cash considerations. What does that mean?
So basically, they traded him for money. So they basically paid Orlando for his contract.
Uh, okay. I'm not sure why it's a consideration, but okay. The Hornets received 2 second-round picks from the Magic in this deal, lifting them to 11 first-rounders and 13 second-rounders over the next 7 years. Well, I predicted that the Thunder would win a championship when they had a ton of trades, but I'm not going to predict the Magic will. Not because I don't think they could, because I actually think they have some decent players. My reason is because the Thunder exists still.
The Golden State Warriors traded Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield to the Atlanta Hawks for Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of confused about this trade. I mean, Kristaps historically does not stay healthy. At the same time, we do kind of finally get a center, so maybe it'll be worth it. It's just really hard to say at the moment. And he is currently still injured. And the Golden State Warriors are also trading Trace Jackson Davis to the Toronto Raptors for a 2026 second round pick via the Lakers.
The New York Knicks traded Gershon Yabusele. I don't remember how to say his name, but I've heard of him before. To the Chicago Bulls for Dalen Terry.
And the Timberwolves traded Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 second round picks to the Bulls for Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips.
The Los Angeles Lakers traded Gabe Vincent, which people were kind of talking about him getting traded away anyway, and a 2032 second round pick to the Atlantic Hawks for Luke Kennard. Kennard is second all time in the 3 point percentage, just behind Steve Kerr. I saw a lot of people saying this is a big pickup for the Lakers moving forward.
Definitely could be, but I don't think it's gonna absolutely make them a favorite to win the playoffs or anything. But we'll see. The Milwaukee Bucks traded Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey to the Phoenix Suns for Nick Richards and Nigel Hayes Davis. The Bulls later joined the trade, sending Usman Deng to Milwaukee and Nick Richards to Chicago.
The Boston Celtics traded Chris Boucher, a future second round draft pick, and cash considerations to the Utah Jazz for John Onjay. The Jazz later released Chris Boucher.
The Pelicans traded Jose Alvarado to the New York Knicks for Dalen Terry, cash, and 2 second round picks.
The Denver Nuggets traded Hunter Tyson and a 2032 second round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for the less favorable of Clippers and Hawks 2026 second round picks.
I guess they just wanted a pick sooner. I don't know, that's kind of weird. And maybe open up some cap space. The Boston Celtics traded Josh Minott to the Brooklyn Nets.
The Philadelphia 76ers traded Eric Gordon and a 2032 second round pick swap to the Grizzlies. This gives the 76ers the flexibility to complete the conversion of two-way Dominic Barlow.
And the Pacers traded Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks, and 1 second-round pick to the Clippers for Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown. This could be a pretty big pickup for them since they recently got rid of Miles Turner. Once Tyrese gets back healthy, I could see that being a help for them. Do you think that's a big pickup?
Benedict Mathurin was a pretty good player for him, but
It's
that's
true.
quite a bit to give up for Benedict Mathurin and two first round picks for Ivica Zubac.
Yeah,
That's quite a bit to give up, but I guess we'll
they
see.
they
Only
did need
time
a
will tell.
center.
Yeah. So the Hornets traded Tyus Jones, which he recently got traded to them, which we talked about earlier, for uh, Malachi Branham of the Dallas Mavericks. I think that could be a big pickup for the Hornets. I know Malachi was playing good for the Spurs. I don't know about the Mavericks as of recent, though.
And Sacramento traded guards Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder to the Cavaliers for forward DeAndre Hunter. Dennis Schroeder is now the second most traded player in NBA history. He's been traded 8 times. Trevor Ariza has the record with 11. I actually don't think Dennis is necessarily a bad player. I just think he fits a lot of roles a lot of teams can utilize. So even though he's not necessarily starter material or borderline starter material, that's probably why he gets traded so much. I do remember though when he was a starter on the Hawks a long time ago. He was actually pretty good, I'd say then.
I do know a lot of people are saying that this is a good trade for the Kings because DeAndre Hunter is expected to be a good fit for them. So, and they aren't playing very good this season. So I guess time will tell. Anyways, the Boston Celtics traded Xavier Tillman Sr. to the Charlotte Hornets. This gets the Celtics out of the luxury tax, and the Hornets receive $3.5 million in the deal.
All right, and that'll do it for the NBA segment. Now we're going to move on to our final segment, the miscellaneous segment. So, indicted Cleveland Guardians pitcher Emmanuel Clace is accused of throwing suspicious pitches to benefit bettors in at least 48 games over the last 2 years. He appeared in 16 games last season before being placed on non-disciplinary leave in July. The case is scheduled for trial May 4th.
So this came up a while ago, like Thursday of last week, I believe. But then eventually I saw that charges got dropped and that he's not getting penalized. But I still wanted to mention this because it did happen. Penn State forward Gavin McKenna, the consensus first overall pick in this June's NHL draft, was charged with felony, aggravated assault, and other counts, according to Pennsylvania magisterial district court documents. Pennsylvania District Attorney withdrew the felony assault charge, like I said a little bit ago. But I wanted to point out that if this did go through, the maximum penalty for first degree felony aggravated assault in Pennsylvania is a 20-year prison sentence and or a $25,000 fine. So that really could have ruined his NHL dreams.
I'm not sure why it got dropped. Maybe there was just no evidence or something. I don't know. But I do wonder if this could affect like, the teams picking him or not. I don't know.
Kind of like with that Monty
Shadur
Teo guy.
Sanders. Oh.
The Monty Teo
Well,
guy that got in trouble with that girl that he didn't know was a child.
I don't remember that, but yeah, I guess it's like that.
He got in trouble because he was in an online relationship, but she claimed she was like 20 or something, but she was only 13.
The Portland Pilots upset number 6 Gonzaga 87 to 80. Portland was a 22.5 point underdog. It is their first win against an AP top 10 opponent and their first win against a ranked opponent since 2014, in which they beat number 20 Gonzaga again. That's kind of crazy. They've done it twice.
I guess Gonzaga isn't very good against Portland. It's their kryptonite. So there was an upset in college basketball besides the Portland game. Number 22 St. John's ended up beating number 3 UConn 81 to 72. We'll be talking a little bit more about this. I've talked about it a little bit, but we'll be talking a little bit more about college basketball coming up because March Madness will be starting in the next month to a month and a half.
And Alabama center Charles Bediako's injunction to continue playing this season for Alabama has been denied by a judge. He'll no longer be eligible for Alabama.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's a good thing. I don't know if you feel any certain way about it, but
Is he the one that was a G League player?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I also feel like if he legitimately has like college eligibility, then I feel like it should be allowed. I don't know.
Number 9 Kansas knocked off number 1 Arizona 82 to 78, and this leaves Miami, Ohio, which they don't like being called that. They like being called the University of Miami. I saw earlier this past week as the lone unbeaten team in men's college basketball.
Though they have probably had a much easier schedule.
Yeah, we looked at their schedule last week, I believe,
Yeah.
and they like a really easy schedule.
And our last bit of news, Tiger Woods' son, Charlie Woods, has committed to Florida State for golf. Florida State University has an elite top-tier NCAA division golf program, consistently ranked among the best in the nation. The men's team is a national championship contender, achieving an NCAA runner-up finish in 2024 and featuring top-ranked golfers. FSU is renowned for developing professional talent, including PGA Tour players Brooks Koepka, Hubert Green, and Paul Azinger. They have won 13 conference championships as well. Uh, I'll be honest, I didn't even know he was college age.
Yeah, I thought it was a younger age. I thought it was like maybe 16. So,
They grow up fast. I remember seeing him for years now. But yeah, that's good for him. I really hope he does well. It's really hard to live up to expectations of your parents if they were like the greatest in a sport, but he does seem to be pretty decent. So I wish him the best. And with that, we are going to call it an end to this episode. We thank you as always for listening, and we hope to see you again next week, where we will introduce a new segment called Ball and Order, where we will be covering all sports crimes in one segment. We had to do this because there was just so many. Anyways, we'll see you guys later.